Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahabushai, Bahasham, Barakahak Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahabushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. In peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure unto the end. This is the brother Ra'aya coming at you with another lesson. And I'm going to start it off with an article from Apple.com titled, Apple Introduces Digital ID, a new way to create and present an ID in Apple Wallet. Digital ID offers a secure and private way for users to create an ID in Apple Wallet using information from their U.S. passport and present their ID with iPhone or Apple Watch. And you know, they got that old saying, all roads lead to Rome. Well, in this case, all roads lead to the MARK of the beast in Revelation 13 verses 16 to 18, which is the RFID/NFC micro C-hip implant. And all these talks of digital currencies, CBDCs, and now what digital IDs are all just stepping stones towards that eventuality. And if you've been noticing over the years, from major companies like what we're reading about with Apple, even to countries and heads of state like Keir Starmer, you know, the British Prime Minister, what did he say? You know, if you want to work in Britain, you're going to need that national digital ID, and it will come to the United States of America as well. But let's get into this article. Apple today announced the launch of Digital ID, a new way for users to create an ID in Apple Wallet using information from their U.S. passport and present it with security and privacy of iPhone or Apple Watch. At launch, Digital ID acceptance will roll out first in beta at TSA checkpoints at more than 250 airports in the U.S. for in-person identity verification during domestic travel, with additional Digital ID acceptance use cases to come in the future. And that's interesting that they're beta testing it at TSA checkpoints, because, you know, we just got out of this government shutdown, and towards the end of it, what was becoming a major issue, you know, air traffic controllers being overworked and not being paid, and the same for TSA workers, and the risk of them not showing up to work or walking off the job, which you already started having, you know, thousands of flights being canceled. But now, you know, the government's back open, and Apple is beta testing digital IDs at TSA checkpoints. Everything that's being done, you know, from the government to these corporations, you know, all that is to get you people, you know, further corralled into this digital prison they're building all around you. There will be a social credit score style system like in China over here in the US, and you're going to need the right digital ID to be able to access anything, which is ultimately going to be that C-hip. Digital ID gives more people a way to create and present an ID in Apple Wallet. And what do you do with your wallet? You buy and sell. And what are you ultimately going to do with that C-hip? Buying and selling. Even if they do not have a real ID compliant driver's license or state ID, digital ID is not a replacement for a physical passport yet, and cannot be used for international travel and border crossing in lieu of a U.S. passport. With the launch of Digital ID, we're excited to expand the way users can store and present their identity, with all the security and privacy built into iPhone and Apple Watch, said Jennifer Bailey, Apple's Vice President of Apple Pay and Apple Wallet. Since introducing the ability to add a driver's license or state ID to Apple Watch in 2022, we've seen how much users love having their ID right on their devices. And eventually, you're going to be the iPhone. Digital IDs brings this secure and convenient option to even more users across the country, as they can now add an ID to wallet using information from their passport. The launch follows the capability for users to add an eligible driver's license and state ID to Apple Wallet. If users do not have a U.S. passport to create their digital ID, they can still add an eligible driver's license to Apple Wallet. But what did it say at the top of this paragraph? With the launch of digital ID, we're excited to expand the ways users can store and present their identity, their personal information, which, going to a precept all of you sincere Akim and Akwat in the know should know by heart by now. This is Revelation 13, verse 16. And he causeth all, that he being the elites of the Edomites, or these so-called white people, your Rothschilds, your Rockefellers, these banking and elite families. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, everyone in society, to receive a MARK in their right hand or in their foreheads, that micro C-hip implant. And then dealing with the foreheads, what do we have? Things like Neuralink. But when we go to that word charagma, and I'm going to get straight to the point, that word MARK is G5480 charagma, which is the actual C-hip, a stamp, an imprinted mark inside you. And when we go to the root word, it's G5482 charax, which is the syringe that they're going to use to put it into you, which, what does it say in the root word? From charasso, to sharpen to a point, akin to G1125, through the idea of scratching, using that syringe to scratch into your skin. But now we're going to go to the root word of charax, which is G1125, grapho, which in the outline of biblical usage says to commit to writing things not to be forgotten, write down, record, like your identity, passport, your banking information, your biometrics, etc., etc. They're massaging you people to the idea of a cashless society and digital IDs and having everything at the touch of your fingertip for convenience. And then they're ultimately going to put that convenience and all your personal information inside you. But now I'm going to go to my second bit of information from the YouTube channel, The National Desk. And it's a short titled, Trump Says Cryptocurrency Greatest Revolution Since the Birth of the Internet. And this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes. And if you remembered, in the run-up to his second selection, Nero 47 said, and he says it in this clip too, that there will never be a central bank digital currency for the United States of America. But just like Nero 47 isn't making America great again and hasn't released those EpiPen files, best believe there will be a U.S. CBDC. And Nero 47 is the perfect man to bring it in. Because a couple of months ago, what did you have? A statue in front of the White House of, Nero 47. It was a golden statue, and he was holding a Bitcoin in his hand. And then, hold on a second. And then, he also made a trip to, the UK to have a dinner with, King Charles. And some of the things they talked about were digital currencies for the US and Britain. And also you had people like Sam Altman of OpenAI at that meeting, as well as I believe the, one of the major people at NVIDIA, which is a C-hip making company. And then also, lest we forget, Project Stargate, which was $500 billion put into building up the U.S.'s AI infrastructure. But let's play this clip.
Last March, I signed an executive order establishing the U.S. Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, as well as the United...
That's another thing. Trump said he wanted to make the U.S. The Bitcoin capital of the world.
Digital asset stockpile, and that's all signed up. And with today's signing, we're pushing even further into the exciting new frontier. Just as I promised last year, the Genius Act creates a clear and simple regulatory framework to establish and unleash the immense promise of dollar-backed stable coins.
And don't let them fool you by saying, a stable coin isn't a, cryptocurrency. That's exactly what it is. Even though it's $1 pegged to one stable coin, that's still one digital US dollar. Again, them just slowly massaging the idea into your head.
This could be perhaps the greatest revolution in financial technology since the birth of the internet itself. I also remain fully committed to my pledge never to allow the creation of a central bank digital currency in America. It won't happen.
Which, again, is complete BS. But that's a very powerful statement. Nero 47 said that cryptocurrency is the greatest revolution since the birth of the internet, because all roads are leading to that CHIP, which is going to be the linchpin of this digital cashless society. The great RESET, that fourth industrial revolution they're going to lock you people into, to where you won't buy or sell, get a job, travel abroad, or do anything without the CHIP, which, as it says, in verse 17, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the charagma, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. And not only is Apple talking about digital IDs, and over in the UK they're talking about digital IDs, and even down in Mexico, just more and more countries are talking about digital IDs. Back during Trump's first presidency, he was talking about voter IDs, which, what do you think that's ultimately gonna be a part of? Digital IDs. And this is a clip from Times YouTube channel. President Nero said you need an ID to buy groceries. And while you don't literally need an ID to buy groceries, reading through the lines in the spirit, what's he saying? You're going to need an ID to buy or sell. And if you don't have that ID, ultimately that mark, you won't be able to. And again, fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes.
We believe that only American citizens should vote in American elections. Which is...
And lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we're not ignorant of his devices. And that's a perfectly reasonable statement, he said. Only U.S. citizens should be allowed to vote in U.S. elections. But again, there's an ulterior motive to it, getting you people, primed and ready for digital IDs, digital currencies, and CHIPs inside you in the name of convenience and security.
The time has come for voter ID, like everything else. Voter ID.
This was 7 years ago.
If you go out and you want to buy groceries, you need a picture on a card. You need ID. You go out and you want to buy anything, you need ID and you need your picture. In this country, the only time you don't need it, in many cases, is when you want to vote for a president, when you want to vote for a senator, when you want to vote for a governor or a
Which go to Habakkuk chapter 1. I'm going to start at verse 13. Because like I just said, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. This is all witchcraft and trickery being used in the name of convenience and security to ultimately get you people to get that C-HIP. And then, on the medical kick of things, what do you have? Neuralink and these other BCIs, or brain-computer interfaces, which are being touted to allow the blind to see again, the deaf to hear. All these things which sound like a benefit to society, but are, just further digging your own grave for you. Thou art of purer eyes than to behold evil, and canst not look on iniquity. Wherefore lookest thou upon them that deal treacherously, and holdest thy tongue when the wicked devoureth the man that is more righteous than he? Which, this whole society has been built off these Edomites devouring you Israelites, or so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, spiritually, mentally, and physically. And makest men as fishes of the sea, as the creeping things that have no ruler over them. They take, and what did Yahushua, the Son of the Most High, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus, tell Peter and his brother, lay down your fishing nets, and I will make you fishers of men, through the Spirit and through the words of these scriptures. While on the left-hand side, Esau is a fisher of men, a fisher of the souls and minds and bodies of you people out here, getting you to believe in his pseudosciences and technocracy, and getting you to believe that these digital IDs, digital currencies, and ultimately that C-HIP are going to be a benefit for you. They take up all them with the angle. They catch them in their net and gather them in the drag. Therefore they rejoice and are glad. And that net is this digital prison they're building all around you, again, in the name of convenience and security. Therefore they sacrifice unto their net and burn incense unto their drag, which a lot of this, technology and AI and all that, they get from the left hand, from demonic entities, which you can read about in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, I believe, verse 8. The man of sin and the son of perdition, whose coming is after the working of Satan. And when you go into that word working in the Strongs, it's energia, which in the outline of biblical usage says supernatural power, whether of God or of the devil. And like I just said, it's of the left hand. Verse 16 again. Therefore they sacrifice unto their net and burn incense unto their drag, because of by them their portion is fat, and their meat is plenteous. This is Daniel chapter 8, verse 25. And, originally this was talking about Antiochus IV Epiphanes. But, those same spirits and that same energy is coming back today with Esau, Edom back in power in this revived, Greco-Roman Empire. And one thing you have to remember, which you can read about in 1 Maccabees chapter 1, is that Antiochus IV had the process of Hellenization, where, especially with the Israelites, he was forcing those different nations to take on, the Greek way of life. Well, hey, the Esau's coming in that same spirit today with what? Americanization, Westernization, which ultimately is going to be, you accepting these digital IDs and digital currencies and that C-HIP, that mark in you. And through his policy, also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. These policies, as we've been going into with the digital IDs and digital currencies, which again, what did, Nero 47 say? That cryptocurrencies are going to be the biggest revolution since the internet. And through his policy also he shall cause craft, his deception, to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, his mind, and by peace shall destroy many. The peace and safety of a better, safer world with everybody having C-hips in them, because we're going to be able to, see your medical records. You're going to be able to buy and sell without worrying about your money being stolen and hacking, all these things. But ultimately, those that receive the C-hip are going to get destroyed, as it says in Revelation chapter 14, verses 9 to 10. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image. And the beast is this system we're currently in. The last leg of the fourth beast in Daniel chapter 2. Those iron toes mixed with miry clay. The reincarnated Roman Empire. This NATO EU system that the U.S. is a part of and at the head of. And the image or the financial, political, and military aspects of this system, which that mark is a major aspect of. If any man worship the beast and his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of the Most High, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb, Yahushai. So, as brothers have been bringing up in past lessons, we'll see how it plays out outside of America. But for everybody inside the United States of America that receives that mark in their hand or in their forehead, hey, they're going to be tormented with that fire and brimstone, those nuclear missiles, which is going to turn America into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards. And you people are going to get destroyed, all in the name of peace and prosperity, as it said back in Daniel chapter 8. And he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. And when Yahushai makes his second coming, Esau is going to try to fight against Yahushai. Revelation 12 verse 7, the devil and his angels. But as it also said, and he shall be cast down. Yahushua is going to completely wipe the floor with Esau and his rulership. But now I'm going to go to my last bit of information from this article on the peoplesvoice.tv titled, Europe bans cash payments ahead of mandatory digital euro launch. Hey, so not just in the U.S., but across the pond as well. Remember, and he causeth all. The EU has announced plans to criminalize all cash payments in anticipation for the rollout of the new digital euro, which will be mandatory for all citizens who wish to participate in society, that they may neither buy nor sell. Starting in January 2027, all cash transactions above 10,000 euros will be illegal in 27 EU states. CryptoNewsMedia.com reports the news, which first went viral after a tweet from the crypto outlet Simply Bitcoin, triggered public concern over potential restrictions on personal financial freedom. However, later clarifications confirmed that self-custody wallets remain untouched. The new rules target companies facilitating crypto transactions, not individual users. But now I'm gonna jump down to this part right here. Impact on businesses and users. While individual crypto users can still transact freely, businesses offering Bitcoin or stablecoin services must align with EU compliance requirements or risk being shut out of the single market. And if you've got to go through these companies, to use Bitcoins or stablecoins, then ultimately what? The people are going to be subject to these regulations down the line as well. Cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin were never meant to be a alternative for you to get out of this financial system. As I've been saying all throughout the lesson, all these things were put in place to get you people psychologically acclimated to the idea of a digital cashless society. And when they come with that reset and, knock everything down and bring it back online, there's going to be no other option but going through central bank digital currencies if you want to get your life back to so-called normal. And through policy, he shall cause his craft to prosper, and through peace shall destroy many. Even firms registered abroad will have to follow EU standards when serving European clients, closing a common regulatory loop. But the key takeaway being what? That starting in January 2027, all cash, which, this cash is trash, all cash transactions above 10,000 euros will be illegal in 27 EU states. And, just the other day, the U.S. minted the last penny. The government's been talking about taking pennies out of circulation, paper checks, and then, talking about nickels and eventually dimes and quarters. They're taking the physical money out of circulation, so there will be no other option but using digital currencies. And they have the infrastructure all set in place. And then the next step, that charagma, Inu. And, it's not just in the EU, but let's go to Nigeria. I put into Google, Nigeria bans cash. And it says Nigeria has not completely banned cash, but it has implemented a cashless policy that limits cash withdrawals from both government accounts and personal/business accounts to encourage the use of digital transactions and the e-naira, just like a digital euro, a digital naira, which is their currency. And what does it say? Government accounts. As of March 1st, 2023, cash withdrawals from public accounts are banned, with only the president able to grant exemptions, capped at 20,000 naira or $45 per day, limited to 100,000 naira for individuals and 500,000 naira for businesses. So, as we can see, he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive that mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. So all roads are leading to this micro CHIP. And, as brothers have been talking about, it looks like, 2026 is going to be a very digital year. And Abaratazad, that is the year that the mark is ultimately rolled out. But that's it with this video. With this video, I hope you sincere, Akim and Akwath, were edified. Just keep strong. We are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next. Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahabushai, Bahasham, Barakahak Wadash, Barakatum. Shalom Akim. This is just a addendum to this lesson, which, I completely forgot about this information that the brother Amawan Gabar, brought out in one of his previous lessons. Hey, we started off with a article talking about Apple's digital ID. Nero 47 was talking about voter IDs 7 years ago, And now just recently, Utah looks to launch state-approved digital ID focused on privacy and security. And through his policy, he shall cause craft to prosper. And this is from KUTV2 News of Salt Lake City's YouTube channel. It's a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes.
A big change could be coming to how you prove who you are. Utah State is considering rolling out a digital ID to help prove who you are in your online dealings. But with data breaches on the rise, Jim Spiewak asked if this can be a game changer for your online safety and security.
Everyone is born with identity.
You control your
And through peace, he shall
identity.
destroy
You should
many.
control your digital identity.
Christopher Bramwell, Utah's chief privacy officer, is leading the state's effort to create a state-endorsed digital identity system, which would provide residents with a verified digital credential proving they are who they say they are.
So someone being able to pretend that they're me probably wouldn't happen.
The whole point of state-endorsed digital identity is to give you control of your identity so nobody can impersonate you.
Bramwell sees initial uses for digital identity for things like going through TSA or verifying identity for government services. But he also says demand is growing in the private sector.
Why wouldn't you just use an identity you control to log into services and you don't have to worry about reset passwords?
Bramwell says once you receive
Private sector.
your
Apple
credential,
ID.
the state won't know when you use it and it won't be tracked, but it would be stored securely in something like a digital wallet.
What do we tell people about why this will be secure?
So security is our top priority, but most importantly, how do you recover when there's a security breach without having to do reissuance of identity to everybody in the state?
Utah lawmakers passed Senate Bill 260 this year, which laid the baseline policy that gives individuals the right to digital identity, but not a mandate to opt in. Senator Kirk Cullimore was the bill's sponsor.
Everything is digital now. A lot of what we do, even in interacting with the state, is digital.
With AI advancing rapidly, Cullimore believes many technologies will soon require state endorsement.
Do you feel confident that what is in policy right now as we start to build this out is the most safe and secure?
The laws and the parameters to establish its safety and the security and the principles of freedom surrounding that are getting put into place.
And a couple of years ago, there was that company up in Wisconsin which was talking about giving their workers the option to get a C-hip implant in them to buy goods on the store at the job, you know, to unlock the doors to get in, all those things. Hey, he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond. We truly are almost out of here, Akim, and you few sincere Akwath.